Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's Top Rated Seller webinar. We want to extend special thanks to today's sponsors. Our sponsors, of course, are eBay Radio, where you got the griff. Billboards by PageMage, the #1 most popular app on the eBay application section. Stamps.com, postage from your PC. Outright.com, put your accounting on autopilot. And last but not least, Terapeak, because Terapeak sellers make more money. Thank you to all for being here today. Our next webinar, well, it's a secret. Don't you know that we're all eBay sellers and we have lots of secrets? We have lots of ideas floating around. We are just confirming dates and times. We don't want you to be left out. We really want you to know as soon as we have it set with the date with eBay. So sign up now at topratedsellerwebinars.com and you'll get first notice when we get our next date for the next eBay Top Rated Sellers webinar. Sign up today. A little housekeeping. Is this webinar being recorded? Yes, I just showed you my screen. We are recording this webinar and it will be available within hours on our YouTube channel. A link to the recording will be in your newsletter, so make sure you're signed up for the newsletter at topratedsellerwebinars.com. Will we distribute the presentation slides? Yes. We usually add the slides as a PDF on our topratedsellerwebinars.com blog site. If you're having audio problems, our best advice is this. If you are using your phone, best advice, hang up, call right back in, try to get a newer line. If you're using your computer and having trouble with the audio, our best advice is to go ahead and use the call-in number that is provided on your screen. We do have a space for questions for you to post during the show. All questions and answers will be held to the end of the webinar, and I'm sure Julie will cover as many as we can. Our webinars last an hour. After that, we will be retiring to the Facebook group. And if you'll go over to Facebook and do a search for Top Rated Seller Webinars, you will find our group. Karen and I will be over there adding folks as fast as we can. After the webinar, we will open up the chat and have a little chat with those who have questions that didn't get answered in the show, in the webinar, or if they have comments and things they want to talk about the webinar series. Ideas are very welcome from our listeners. We appreciate you very much. If you don't get your questions answered during the webinar or on the Facebook group, don't give up, because we will follow up with Julie and get as many of those answers as we can. Watch the blog and the newsletter to see that. And this is for, at the very end, this is question and answer time. Now I'm going to change the screen and give our screen to Miss Julie, because she is our presenter today from eBay. We're very excited to have her here with us. Julie is from the Search Sciences team at eBay. And so I'm very excited that she's going to talk to us about best match on eBay. Hi, Julie. Everything good on your end?
I think so. Can you see my screen?
I see your screen and I hear your voice. That's awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share all of this with all of you. So let me get started. First of all, let me introduce myself. Who am I? My name is Julie Netzloff. I'm a product manager in the Search Science team. I've worked at eBay since October 2006. That's about 5.5 years. I've been a member of eBay since December 1998. And I have been part of the Best Match team since its launch in March 2008. So I am a bit of the team historian. My Pink ID is julielevy@ebay.com. You're welcome to email me at this, and if you see me posting on the boards, that's me. So first of all, let me get started with, I'm going to actually close this control panel or move it. Actually, let me move it out of the way. What is Best Match? Best Match is eBay's default sort. You're going to hear me say sort and ranking today. I mean the same thing when I say each. It changes the orders of the items on the page. It doesn't actually change the items returned for a user query. So in that way, Best Match and Time Ending Soonest and Price Low to High, they all do the same thing. They change the order of the results returned, but you get the same number of results for each one. Oops. Not advancing my slides. So why do we have best match on eBay? Basically, what I've spoken of here is the goal of best match. What we want to do is we want to make eBay a really efficient marketplace, and best match has a proven track record of increasing sales and reducing bad buyer experiences. Sellers sell more, and our buyers are happier, and they're going to come back and they'll buy again. There are 3 pillars to best match. Trust. We want buyers to receive great service from sellers they can trust, and what that means is that they will come back and buy again because they know that eBay is a trusted marketplace. Selection. We want to show a diverse selection of the most relevant inventory. We want to make sure that when buyers come to eBay and do a search, they actually see the items that they want to buy. And value. We want to surface the best deals for our buyers, so we want to make sure that they come to eBay and they see great deals and they come back to look for more deals. So really, we just want a really healthy marketplace, and we want buyers to be delighted and return. And what you all care about is what's most important in best match. And the honest truth is there are a lot of important factors in best match. The important thing to keep in mind is there is no one single factor that is going to boost your listings to the top. There's a lot of things you need to do to optimize your listings to succeed in best match. And there's 4 main concepts that I'm going to cover today of what you can do to make your listing rank higher in best match. The first is make your listing complete. I talk about all of these more later in the slide deck, but make your listing complete, deliver great buying experiences, offer retail-like services like returns, and optimize for sales. So what do I mean when I say make your listing complete? What I mean is give us all the information you can about your listing, because the more we know about your listing, the better we can match it to buyer queries. If your listing is missing information, if you don't have an image, if you have not used the recommended item specifics, you haven't put in a description, your listing will be at a disadvantage compared to complete items, because we will be able to rank the complete items more effectively than we can items that are missing information. Also, having a complete listing may help you attain ETRS standing, because it's going to reduce your item not as described claims. If you really made a complete listing that says everything about your item, it will help you reduce those claims. And tips for having a complete listing, and I am also going to talk more about these. You want to have a clear and accurate title and description. You want to use item specifics to describe your item, and specifically you want to use all of the ones that eBay recommends. You want to list against a catalog wherever possible. So if you're selling in a category where we have catalog items like iPods or GPS devices, go ahead and use that catalog, because that is going to help you fill out all the information about your item, and it's going to give you a really nice right category for your item. And you want to include as many high quality photos of your item as possible. Okay. So what do I mean when I say write a good title? Well, the title is important because it's the advertisement for the item you're selling, and it's really what the buyer sees on the search results page. They see your photo, they see your title, and they see your price. And this is the information that is going to entice a buyer to click on your listing. You want it to be clean, concise, and professional. And recommendations for writing a good title, pretty obvious, but say what your item is. State exactly what you are selling. You can use as many characters as you need, up to 80, to describe your item. You don't have to use all 80 characters. There's no disadvantage if you do not use all of the characters. So use exactly as many as you need to describe your item. You want to include really important information like brand, color, size, condition, model number. And another tip is go into eBay and look for items that are similar to yours and see what other sellers have put in the title. Specifically, look at the items that are close to the top of search, because that'll give you a good idea of what buyers think is important. Use title case or sentence case for your listing title. All caps is yelling at your buyers. You know, it's yelling and it's really hard to read. So title case or sentence case just makes it easier to read. Use correct spelling. You don't want to put spam in your title, misleading or false information. This is actually against eBay policies, and your item can be removed for having any of this. Avoid terms like wow and look. These don't describe your item. Buyers don't search for these words. They don't really add value, and again, they don't look professional. And don't stuff your title with synonyms or plurals. You don't need this for search, and it makes your title less attractive to buyers because it really makes it a lot harder to read. I have an example here of a bad title and a good title. The bad title is difficult to read. It's basically, I'll read it off for you, Red by Mark Echo, Hobo Handbag, Purse Bag, Silver Gray, Beautiful $90 List, Wow Look. That's hard to read. It's hard to figure out exactly what's for sale on this. They've wasted characters that they could have actually used to describe their item. And there's just junk words in there. So what I propose as a better title would be Red by Mark Echo, Silver Hobo Style Handbag with 2 outside pouches. I used sentence case here to make it a little bit easier to read. I put in more details about the actual item for sale, and this title looks more professional. It actually looks more trustworthy to buyers. I have another example here. This is actually, it is not a title that I found on the site, but it is very similar to titles that I have found on the site. Kali Sheltie Painting, Hawaii Beach, Ocean, Volcano, Rainforest, Dolphin, Turtle. It's hard to figure out actually what's for sale here. It's in all caps, so basically the seller is yelling at the buyers. And as you can see, it's literally stuffed with spam. It doesn't describe the item that's for sale. What I would propose as a better title is Kali on a Hawaiian Beach, original acrylic painting on wood. This is easy to read, and it's a lot more clear to see what's for sale here in this title. Moving on to write a good description. The description lets you give more information about what you're selling. You want it to be detailed but concise. Basically, you should not be putting spam in your description either, but you should be putting all of the information that the buyer needs to know. And you want to leave the buyer with a complete understanding of what you're selling. We recommend you organize your description in paragraphs, putting similar information grouped together. And because it's the most important, you should, in your first paragraph, actually describe your item. Put details like size, shape, color, age, manufacture date, company, artist, author, notable features or markings. If there's additional information about the item condition, you know, does it have any scratches? Does it have any flaws? Is it in perfect condition? And be really clear about what the buyer is going to receive if you think there's any doubt. If you're selling something, for example, that normally comes with accessories and you do not have the accessories for sale, just say, you know, doesn't include these accessories. Make sure the buyer can really understand what they're going to receive from you. In a separate paragraph, you can include a story about the item or why it's appealing. You know, maybe where you bought it, what the history of the item is. Use another paragraph to include details on your policies, shipping, payment, and returns. And these are details that you can't already convey using the shipping and payment fields. So don't duplicate the information that you've already entered in the shipping and payment fields, but if there's additional information that you need to include, by all means, put that in your description. We do encourage you to use the structured data elements, the actual spots where we ask for the shipping and payment information in the listing whenever possible. You know, don't lie about your item. Make sure that buyers know what they're going to expect. This is going to reduce your significantly not as described claims. Use sentence case, complete sentences, and correct spelling. Basically make this really easy to read for your buyers. Avoid all caps. Again, that's yelling at your buyers. Multiple fonts and multiple font colors. Those are really hard to read. They make your listing look less professional, and they may discourage buyers. We recommend you use a single simple font. We also don't actually recommend HTML in the description. What we find is with the increased use of mobile devices to buy on eBay, HTML doesn't always display correctly on those, and important parts of your listing description could be cut off. Avoid negative anti-buyer language in your description. What I mean by that is don't put things like "don't bid if you aren't going to leave 5 stars." I've seen sellers put "don't bid if you're a sourpuss." Just don't put that. That's not attractive, and it's not professional. We recommend you don't embed a lot of pictures in the description. It's better if you actually use eBay picture services to load them in. The pictures will display properly on mobile devices, and they'll also display above the fold with the rest of the images. And you should probably avoid lengthy terms and conditions. Buyers actually don't read this. Buyers aren't going to read them. There's not a lot of point into putting an epic of terms and conditions in the description. Buyers might think you're trying to hide something in the fine print. I've got another description going back to my Marc Ecko handbag. This is a description I actually saw on the site. Used one time. I did not find it very descriptive. So what I propose for a better description is gunmetal hobo-style medium handbag from Red by Marc Ecko. The double handle bag has 2 exterior pouches and magnetic closure and is fully lined. There is 1 interior zipper compartment. The bag measures 10 inches by 12 inches by 3 inches. It was used only once and is in perfect condition with no visible wear. You can see that my proposed description gives a lot more information about the item, information that won't all fit in the title, obviously. It tells more about the item, it gives you the actual size of the item, and gives more information about the condition of the item. That is a better description. I've used, again, complete sentences, correct spelling, just to make it very readable and attractive to buyers. And back to my my actual favorite example, my collie painting. Again, this is very similar to a listing I found on the site. The seller's description: Collie has taken a Hawaiian vacation and shares aloha and friendship with all of his ocean friends. I used acrylic paints with a satin varnish. There's a sawtooth hanger on the back. You must pay within 3 days. Please contact with questions, so on and so forth. I find it hard to figure out what is for sale here. So I'm proposing something different. I propose a first paragraph saying exactly what's for sale. It's an original acrylic painting on a wooden plaque. I give the size of the plaque. The plaque is 10 3/4 by 8 1/2. What is in the painting? Well, it's a scene. It's a collie on a Hawaiian beach playing in the waves with his ocean friends turtle and dolphin, signed by the artist. It's finished with a satin varnish. The plaque has a sawtooth hanger, or you can use it in a plate holder for table display. Literally, I've just laid out exactly what the item is, what materials were used, the size of it, all the information in this first paragraph. And then in the second paragraph, my inspiration, sharing aloha and friendship with all creatures. So you can still include that special information about your item, just separate it from the actual details of the item itself. I've put in some terms. Please make PayPal payment within 3 days of auction end. And then in a separate paragraph, any questions, please ask. Thanks for looking, and please check out my other auctions. So it's basically just does a better job of making it clear exactly what is for sale, exactly I expect payment within 3 days of auction end, and I have other options, please take a look. There's more than just title and description. I think I mentioned before, listing in the correct category is really important. It's a policy violation to not list in the correct category, and your items could be removed from the site if you don't use the correct category. It's important to list in the correct category also, because when users browse through the site, if you're not in the right category, your item won't come up. So make sure you are in the place buyers expect you to be when they look for items. And if you're not in the most relevant category for a particular query, you will not rank highly. So being in the right category is very critical. You want to provide as many item specifics as possible. And more critically, if eBay recommends an item specific, fill it out if you can. These are very important. And information from item specifics actually populates the choices on the left navigation that buyers can use to filter down their listings. If you haven't put in that information, you won't be included in their search. For example, if a buyer is searching for a dress and they filter down to dresses with capped sleeves, if you haven't told us through the item specific that your dress has capped sleeves, you will actually be dropped from the search results entirely. So it's very important to make sure you have all of those filled out. And search engines like Google require item specifics to qualify for full inclusion in their search. So item specifics are very important. You want to make sure you've included at least one good photo of your item. Upload at least one picture for every listing. The first picture is free for all sellers. We also recommend, if you're selling in multi-variation listings, that you include one photo for every variation. And you want to take really good photos that showcase your items and make them look desirable. If you are doing multiple photos, if you're able to do that, photograph your item at different angles so that buyers can see it all the way around. If there are any flaws, photograph those flaws and put it on your listing so that buyers have a really clear idea of the item they're getting. And we also recommend against adding borders or text to your photos. We call that graffiti, and we recommend against it. It looks unprofessional. Buyers don't tend to like that on images. Here are some very simple examples. This is me with an iPhone and a toy on my desk, so these are probably not the highest quality photos that could be taken, but pretty much it's just highlighting, don't put in a blurry photo. Don't put in a photo that has a lot of other stuff in it. Make it clear exactly what's for sale. Take a close-up of your photo. If it's too far away, buyers can't actually see what it is. And then don't put text on your photo. We call that graffiti, and it detracts from the actual item being sold. So my example of a good photo is basically my eBay Canada Moose. I put a ruler next to it. I took the photo on a neutral background. A lot of people recommend white backgrounds. In this case, it's just a neutral background. And I put in a ruler for perspective so that buyers get a clear idea of how large the item is. Moving on, you should also offer great customer service. Strive to become top rated. It does matter. And you also want to avoid creating bad buyer experiences. Resolve issues with your buyers when they arrive. What do I mean by bad buyer experiences? These are negative or neutral feedback, low detailed seller ratings, your DSRs, and by low, that's 1s or 2s, and buyer protection cases filed against you, significantly not as described or item not received. We consider all of these bad buying experiences. These are things that tend to drive buyers away from eBay, and we want to reduce those. So we look at your top-rated seller status, and we also look at your bad buyer experience rate. So those are both very important. You can track your seller performance and see how to improve by visiting your seller dashboard. I have a screenshot of that on the next slide that I'll share. You also want to offer high levels of service. You want to accept returns. this is just something that buyers expect, and we want you to offer the highest service levels you possibly can. We have some recommended service levels, and we know that sellers can't always offer all of them on all of their items. So the recommendation is offer as high a level of service as you can. So we strongly recommend returns with the most generous return policy that you are able to give. What we recommend is a return window of 14 days or more with a money back option. But again, the real guidance is as generous as a return policy as you can muster. Offer free shipping as your default shipping option. Offer 1 day or same day handling time, and offer an expedited shipping option. These are all standards that buyers have come to expect from online retailers, and we want buyers to buy on eBay and be able to get the same level of service here that they can get on other sites. Here's the screenshot of the seller dashboard. In this particular screenshot, the seller is top rated. You can get to the seller dashboard if you're not familiar with it. It's in My eBay on the My Account tab underneath the My Account link on the left. So what this shows you is your low DSR percentage, and this particular screenshot shows you what is required to be top rated, and it will give this particular seller's rating. So this seller, for example, in the low DSR rating section, has a 32% item is described DSR rate with 10 DSRs. And the evaluation period considered is at the top. This particular one is November through January 31st. So you can see your percentage of low DSRs here and the actual number. You can see the number of buyer protection cases opened. And then you can also see your average detailed seller ratings here. So if this seller was looking for an area to improve, when I look at the average detailed seller ratings, their lowest, 4.89, is in shipping time. So if this seller wanted to work on improving something, they might want to consider different shipping services. They might be able to reduce their shipping time in some other way, reduce their handling time, find some way to improve. But this will tell you what buyers are actually saying about your performance. So that's why it's important to always check here. And finally, optimize for sales. I've left this to the last. It's very important. I would characterize it as one of the most important things you can do for best match, but I left it to the last because all of the best practices I have been talking about are ways that you can optimize for sales. So that's why I've left this to the last. I would say it's probably the most important thing you can do, but all of the best practices that I've been talking about lead to this. So basically the popularity of your item with buyers compared to the competition is very important. You may have heard this referred to as the listing performance score. We look at the number of times a listing has been shown to buyers and compare it to the number of times that listing is sold. Items that sell more compared to the number of times they're shown are more efficient listings. Buyers prefer them, they sell more efficiently, and they will be advantaged in ranking. So what can you do? Review all the best practices that we've been talking about. And also a critical thing you can do is compare your listings to the competition. Look at the stuff that is at the top of the page and try to figure out what they're doing that you're not doing. Are your items competitively priced? And are they priced competitively for eBay? And are they priced competitively off eBay? Because buyers do have the choice to either buy on eBay or go somewhere else. If they can buy something cheaper on another site, or if they can walk into a store and buy an item cheaper, they very likely will. So price is very important. And when I say price, I also mean shipping. Shipping costs are important. Are the images high quality? I see this over and over again when sellers come to me and say, you know, why is this other guy at the top and I'm not? And, you know, sellers have blurry photos or graffiti on their photos, and they're just not very professional. So it really matters. It's the first impression of your item that buyers get on the search result page is your title and your image. So having very professional, high quality images is critical for getting that first click. And then do you offer high service levels? Do you offer free shipping? Do you offer returns? Do you have a short handling time? All of that is very important. And you can use the free eBay listing analytics tool to tune your click-through and sell-through rates for fixed price listings. I have a screenshot of this on the next slide. But one question that a lot of you might say is, what about new items? What about single quantity items? If I don't have multiple quantity, how am I going to build up a sales history and optimize for sales? We account for that. We take a look at single quantity items or new items, and we compare them to things on the site that have already sold and give them a score based on similar items. So we are able to rank single quantity items in that way. And here's a screenshot of the listing analytics tool. This is free to all sellers. You can access it through the applications tab in my eBay. And what this allows you to do is take a look at your fixed price items, see your rank, your impressions, your clicks, and your sales, and also compare your listings to the top 5 eBay listings. So on this screenshot in the red box, you can see the information for the top 5 listings, their impressions, their clicks, that means the number of times people actually went to a view item, the click-through rate, which is clicks divided by impressions, so compared to the number of times they were seen, how frequently did someone click, you can see how frequently it's sold, and then the sell-through rate and how many people are watching it. So you can get that information for the top 5, and then you can get that information for your listings. And this particular example is for HDMI cable. And you can compare and see whether you're falling down on click-through rate or sell-through rate. And basically what you would do is if you aren't getting impressions, that means there's something for a particular query. That means you should just go back and really review your listing from start to finish, because there is something wrong with it and it's probably not coming up in search. So take a look at your title, take a look at your item specifics, take a look at all of that information. If you're getting the impressions but you're not getting the clicks, that means buyers are seeing your listing and passing it over. So you want to take a look at all of the information that appears on the search results page, your photo, your title, your price, your shipping cost, all of the information that buyers see on the search result page. There's something about that information that is not enticing enough for buyers. So optimize your title, take a clearer photo, try a different angle, something along those lines to increase the click-through rate to get folks to click. Nobody can buy your listing until they click through to see it. And then your sell-through rate. So if you're getting the impressions and you're getting the clicks and you're not getting the sales, well, that means there's something actually on about your listing that buyers aren't finding attractive. So then take a look at your description, take a look at your terms, take a look at your price again, because people might still be making price decisions after they've looked at the view item page. But basically, just look at all of your information and compare your item to the competition and try to find how they are different than you and optimize in that way. So this is the tool that we give sellers to optimize their click-through, sell-through, and sell-through rates. We call that the listing funnel. And that is actually the end of my presentation.
Julie?
So,
hey,
yes.
Listen, that was a great presentation. I hope you're ready. I think we have more questions for this webinar than we've had for anyone so far. So, heads up, it is question time, and I believe Karen has our questions. Let me unmute Karen and get her to start feeding us questions. And we will be right there in just a second with Karen. Hey, Karen. Karen, are you there?
I'm here. I have a page and a page and a page.
Oh, we have lots of
I'm
pages.
not muted unless you got me muted.
I don't have you muted,
Yes,
so
we have
good.
pages and pages.
Okay.
Okay, one of the first questions that's quick and easy and right in front of my screen is, where do they find the listing analytics page?
So it's in my eBay on the applications tab, and you do need to subscribe for it, but it is free to US sellers, so you should be able to do that. There's also a help page on eBay, so if you go to the eBay site and the customer service box and look for listing analytics, you'll find a little help page that will also give you more information about it.
Cool. And it's really helpful. I know I just went through about 1,500 listings getting some ideas with it. Okay, speaking of the listing analytics tool, what do you mean by impressions?
So an impression is whenever an item was shown to a buyer on a search results page. So if my listing shows on page 1 of the search result page for a user search, so a user searches for sheets, and my package of sheets comes up on page 1, I get an impression. Now, if my package of sheets comes up on page 2 instead of page 1, I will get an impression only if that buyer clicks onto page 2 and has a chance to see my item. So it's literally, we're trying to measure the number of times a buyer has seen your listing.
Okay. And then we have somebody else who said, I've been told by eBay that listing performance specs that determine ranking only last for about 2 weeks, whether it's good till cancel or fixed price in relisted items. Is that still the case?
We look at all performance, but we do look at recent performance, and that weighs more into the score. So absolutely, what you have done in the past 2 weeks is more important than what you did 2 months ago, and what you've done in the last month is more important than what you did in the last year. Basically, the more recent the information, the more important it is.
Okay. Does sell-through have an effect on best match? That's kind of what you were just talking about. Does the sell-through rate?
Yes, that's the listing performance. Yeah, that's the listing performance score. So it's the number of times an item has sold compared to the number of times it's been shown to buyers. So it's sales compared to impressions. So yes, it does.
Okay. Now we have some questions as far as eBay and Google. Can you tell how to get the items show up in Google? This person says they've tried everything except standing on their head.
So I am not an expert on that, so I don't think I can answer those questions, but if you'd like to pass them to me, I will try to find someone who can answer them for us, and maybe we can post them afterwards.
Yeah, and I have been collecting all the questions, and I'm really going to, when I'm going through the questions, I'm going to make sure they're mostly specific to best match. So if and it's not specifically related to best match, we will pass them on to eBay and see if we can get some answers. Okay, if you are physically based in another country and selling on the eBay.com site, is there any difference in how your item is presented to the U.S. buyers and to the rest of the world compared to U.S. sellers selling on the eBay.com?
No, there's no difference in how your item is presented to buyers, no.
Okay. The next question is, can you give us some guidance on setting up keywords and meta tags in our stores? The defaults that eBay generates often cause spam error messages.
You know, I'm not an expert on that, so let's hold that and we'll try to get an answer for you.
Does good till cancel items get the same priority as an item that is about to end in best match?
Yeah, it doesn't matter which, whether you've done good till canceled or a short duration listing. We recommend good till canceled because it's easier, but there's no difference in the way they're treated.
Okay, now this is a kind of a specific question this person has. They can sell an item with free ship, 14-day return, 1-day handling, and another seller offers the exact same item in condition but charges a higher price. Has no return policy. They are charging shipping, and they appear ahead. You know, they're both top-rated sellers. Is there other reasons that they would appear ahead of them?
Well, sure. There's the listing performance score. There could be, the other listing could be more complete. You'd need to take a look at, you know, item specifics, take a look at the title and description. There are a lot of reasons why that would happen. That's why I say there's a lot of factors that are important in best match. So just having one or two of them might not be enough to lead to success. You've really got to do a lot right to get ahead.
Okay. Here's kind of a specifics with using search terms. When putting in the model number in the title, does it matter whether you put model and then the hashtag sign, or model and NO period, or the word, spell out the whole word model number?
That's a good question. I don't believe it matters, but let's flag that, and I'm going to go back and talk to some folks who might be have more expertise in that to make sure I gave you the right answer.
Okay, and here's another type of thing, like same type of thing. When it comes to things like vintage red hat, as far as which would come up first, vintage red hat vintage, VTG red hat, etc. So kind of, you know, the abbreviations, how do they work in best match?
So basically what it would come down to is all the other information about the listing. So we know that VTG equals vintage, so there would be no problem with that. We would want to see, you know, I honestly don't know which buyers prefer. So we do look at information about what has historically been clicked on in the past. So if buyers prefer it spelled out, you know, I can't say that that listing would come ahead, but that title might be evaluated as better than the other title. Really, it all comes down to all of the information about your listing, not just one piece of your listing as to which will come first.
Julie?
Yes.
Yes, I believe the question, if you don't mind me interrupting Karen, when the listener was asking that question, since you say that we know that VTG equals vintage, are you saying that eBay search recognizes that, so it's not necessary to put both vintage and both VTG in the title to turn up in those searches?
Correct. That's why we recommend that you don't include synonyms in your title, because it's basically taking away from space that you could actually use to better describe your item. But we do know that VTG equals vintage, and if you do a search, you should get roughly the same number of results.
Okay, that's interesting, because I know, Karen, we have questions down later to re-emphasize that title question, because that came up a lot in the questions, Julie, because in the past, the advice has been to use those full 80 characters and put as many words in there as possible. So it seems like this is a little bit different than what we've been told in the past, so I think we're going to have a lot of questions on that. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, and speaking of that question, the listing you put up with the turtle, rabbit, thing like that, one of the questions that I had about it was, but those are keywords that people search for, and so that's why they would generally use those in the titles.
But those actually don't have anything to do with the item being listed, so that title is in violation of eBay policy. So that listing could actually be removed for spam.
Okay.
Which
lot of questions we're getting.
I'm sorry, Karen. I'm sorry. This is a really big point, Julie, to our listeners, and I want to make sure that we get it correct. Are you saying that the title that had the dolphin and the volcano and all of that is the title that we're talking about would be actually in violation of policies?
Yes.
Okay.
Keyword spam is a violation.
Okay, but if all of those things that are in the title were actually in the picture, I'm not sure I'm understanding how they would be spam. Can you just explain that a little bit better, please?
Okay. all of these were not in the picture, so
Okay.
maybe this isn't a great example.
Okay.
Yes, if all of those were in there, this would still be a bad title because it's very hard to read and
Right.
you would not understand what is for sale.
Right.
But if literally the painting had every single one of these features,
Okay.
then it would not be spam.
Okay.
In the case I based this on was actually a painting that used keywords that did not relate to the item being sold.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Karen. I just want to make sure that we got all that really, really clear. I'll be quiet now and let you do your questions.
No, that's okay. And the questions are still coming in, and I'm still looking. I have to even copy them all over. Okay, now one of the things you said about recommending not having HTML in the description, that had a lot of questions come up. You know, they used to tell us to have links to the store and other similar items in your mailing list. So are you saying that we shouldn't have those anymore?
You know, that's a good question. If you have extensive HTML in your description, it won't display properly on mobile devices, and that's actually why we're making this recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got the HTML in your description, take a look at your item on a mobile device or on a couple, you know, borrow people's phones and take a look. And if it displays properly, that's fine. The reason why this is a recommendation is really along the sales. If people can't see your description on their mobile devices, they won't buy it, and you're losing out on a segment of buyers. So that's where that recommendation comes from. So if you used HTML in your description and you can see it on mobile devices and it displays fine, you know, we're not going to disadvantage you in search because you have HTML. This is basically what we're saying here is, you know, your item isn't going to display properly on mobile devices, so be careful.
Thank you.
Okay, so all the people, we've got a couple more questions about people that list through the third-party listing services and have templates or use templates in their own listings. Will that cause a problem? So the suggestion is look at your own listings on a mobile device and see how they look.
Yeah, they are. So I would say make sure that your template looks professional. Make sure that it would be attractive to your buyers. And take a look at it on a mobile device. In fact, that's probably a really good recommendation for everybody because we have more and more sales coming in from mobile devices. So just make sure your listing looks good on you know, the eBay phone app, the eBay iPad app, any mobile device app that you can find. Make sure that it looks good.
Okay. And back to the whole keywords in the title. If you were listing, for example, a handbag, would you not want to use other names for handbags such as purse, bag, etc. in the title?
No, because we know that a purse and a handbag are the same thing. So you would not need those words. And again, it makes your item look less readable. It makes your title a little bit less professional looking.
Karen? Can
Yes.
I chime in again on this? Thank you so much,
can.
Julie, for that. So we've got specific directions about VTG and vintage and about purses, that if we do a search for purse, it's also going to pull up handbag and that kind of thing. How are we to know how smart eBay search is? I guess that's a funny question, but when I'm listing a shoe, for instance, do I need to list sneaker and tennis shoe to get both of those searchers, or does Best Match already know that? And how do I know that they've got my synonyms covered? Do I need to test that for the items I'm selling, or what?
Yes, I would recommend that you go ahead and test that. I would also say test periodically because we get smarter and smarter about this.
Cool.
As time goes on. So test, and if we don't have it, continue to test.
Okay.
Because we'll probably get it very shortly if we don't already have it.
You guys are so smart. Thank you.
All right, you brought up a lot of questions when you mentioned about pictures and picture graffiti. One person was saying that customers have told us that they don't read anything, they just buy off the title and the photo. So they've been putting text on the photo. Is that hurting their chances in Best Match?
I believe it is hurting their chances to sell their item.
Okay.
They are, we've heard that buyers do not like the graffiti on the image, and that they avoid these things. So what they're harming is their listing performance score.
Okay, so they're not specifically being disadvantaged in best match score because they have a border or text in their photos, but in the long run it may disadvantage them because they may not sell as many. Is that correct?
That is correct. You know, yes.
Yeah, based on your analysis there at eBay where you have all the figures. The other question about that was, what about the apps they have now that will add a border around your gallery picture? You're not adding that, and it's only showing up in the gallery view. Is that different, or do you have enough data to decide on that yet?
Yeah, I can't comment on that, but if
Okay.
you want to give me, if we have more detailed questions like that, I do actually have a resource I can go to and talk to
Great,
about that.
great.
Okay. Let's see. Does putting the words free shipping in your title hurt you in best match?
You know, what we've seen recently is it actually hurts you in Google. So we don't recommend it. We have a place for you to indicate that you have free shipping. So we don't recommend that you put that in your title. We don't recommend that you put your user ID in your title. We don't recommend that you put it's really not necessary, and people don't search for that. But we have specifically heard that putting the words free shipping in your title hurts you in Google.
Cool. And yeah, I know that Google doesn't like anything that says free shipping or having to do with shipping on it, and that they just ignore all of those listings. Somebody else asked you if they should have a custom page in their store to indicate terms and conditions.
You can, but I guess I would ask, do you really think that buyers would always go to your store to look at your terms and conditions? I don't, if it's a separate place that somebody has to go off your listing, they're not likely to go there and read your terms and conditions.
Okay. Another question is, how does eBay judge a high quality photo when it comes to best match?
We're looking for something that is in focus and on a neutral background. Images are going to become more and more important as time goes on. So having a clear, in focus, neutral background photo is going to become more and more important.
Okay. Just one of the other questions that they're asking is about your format of your description. Having bullet points as opposed to sentences, having it centered or less justified. You know, is there any of those factors that make a difference in helping with best match or with the listings, you know, being professional on eBay?
No, I would say just make sure that your description is well organized. The one thing that we've seen that is important from a sales perspective is to have the information about your item first. So I would emphasize that, but just make your it clean and well organized and professional looking. If bullet points work, that's fine too.
Okay, and most of these questions, both Chris and I are putting them into other places so that we're going to try to have copies of the questions with the answers available for people. And any of the questions that we have to forward on to you to get answers from other people.
Great, because we're running out of time, and we promised Julie an hour, and I don't want to drag it out because we want her to come back sometime, right, Julie?
I would love to come back.
Well, like I said, I think that your presentation got us more questions even than Griff, so you can go tell him about that. Because we really appreciate it. I know that, you know, best match algorithm overall is a big, you know, company secret, but you've given us so much good advice on how to make it work for us. We really, truly appreciate it. We will be going over to Facebook in about 6 minutes, and those of you are welcome to join us there. We have a Facebook group, Top Rated Seller Webinars, and we'll have a little chat over there for about 15 minutes or so. And then we will also be trying to get everything gathered up towards the blog. And Julie, you generously offered to look up some questions for us, even the ones about Google, so we'll be happy to send those to Julie after the show, and try to get a blog post up by the end of the week with those. Karen, we've got 5 minutes left. You got some good questions that we haven't already touched on, or maybe some clarification that we need?
I've got some more questions.
Okay. I know you have lots more.
I have a couple more which might work. What about watermarks on images?
So what we've seen is that buyers don't want to see the watermark. So we understand why you're watermarking your image, because you actually don't want it to be stolen, and that's not a problem. But from the perspective of professional appearance, make it as unobtrusive as possible so that it doesn't take away from the image of the item that you're selling.
Okay. Let's see. I'm now scrolling the newest ones that I haven't even pulled over yet because they just kept coming while we were talking. How does eBay's catalog, using the catalog filter into best match? Because that's a relatively new thing where more and more people are using the catalog to list.
So if you use the catalog to list, you get the advantage of having all of the information that we already know about the product. So if you're selling an iPod or a phone, you just link your listing to the correct product, and it fills in all of the technical details of that product and gives you a very nice professional photo. You also appear on what we call the product detail page. So when people search for example, if someone searched for an iPod, you will appear on the product details page with all of the other iPods. And we, on the product details page, do also highlight the best priced. So if you can be the best priced item, you have a chance to be in what we call the buy box on the product details page. So it's a great opportunity to get exposure for your item.
Okay. Another question that I think Chris is getting emails along the same line. If you can explain the definitions of impressions, sorry about that, impressions, clicks, click-through, and sell-through. Because I know that's confusing to a lot of people.
Okay, sure. And this information is also in the help from the for the listing analytics tool. But an impression is anytime a buyer saw your listing on the search results page. So if I am selling a cell phone case and someone searches for cell phone case, if my item appears on page 1, I will get 1 impression when the buyer searches for it and my item is on page 1. If my item is on page 2, I would get the impression only if that buyer goes to page 2 and has a chance to see my item. So the impression is anytime your item has been on a search results page that has been shown to buyers. And then a click is anytime someone clicks on your listing and goes through to the view item page. So if your title was attractive enough or your price was attractive enough and someone looked at your listing, that is a click. And so the click-through rate is comparing the clicks to the impressions. So that's just compared to the number of times you were seen, how frequently did your listing attract a click? And then the sales are obviously how frequently did someone then buy your item. And in the listing analytics tool, I'm going to have to see if the sell-through rate is I believe it's sales compared to impressions as well. So it's because you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at compared to the number of times your item was clicked, how frequently did it sell, and you can also say, which is the listing performance score, compared to the number of the times your items was seen, how frequently did it sell. So there's 2 different measures there. And I need to take a look at the listing analytics tool to see what we're calling sell-through rate there.
Okay, yeah, and some people are having problems getting anything to show up in the analytics tool, so we're going to have to take a look at their eBay, and if they have any questions, they can probably check
you may
help.
not see. Yeah, and if you list auction items, you may not see information. Listing analytics is really more geared towards fixed price items, and you do have to do a search to actually see your listing's performance. So you need to put in a keyword. But the help page on eBay can help you guide you through how to use the tool.
Okay. And we have 2 more questions that I'm going to pull from here so we can go. Do variation listings get better placement? Like if you have the multi-variation listings?
You mean
As
better
opposed to straight?
as opposed to straight? No, we do recommend you use multi-variation. We think they have a really good chance of aggregating sales and impressions. So it's probably a really good idea, but I cannot say necessarily that they would appear higher in search. It's likely if they can aggregate enough sales over impressions, but
Okay, and the last question, Scott, I'm going to give you the last question since you keep telling us to show some love here. Is there a search difference between photos that are hosted on eBay with the eBay galleries or those stored and displayed in the template such as MDOs or any of the other third-party listing tools?
no, there is not.
Okay. Okay, I think I've got it. I mean, there's still a lot more, but it's 3:01.
Okay, can you hear me now? I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
I
Karen?
don't know if we've lost Kat or if she's muted.
Oh, I was just chatting away over here. And Julie, really want to thank you for coming through for us. Bunch of new information for our listeners, and they're very fired up. I assure you both, all your listeners, that Karen and Julie and Chris are very carefully storing all your questions, and we'll do our best to get you an answer. Julie, thanks again for coming by, and you are welcome anytime.
Okay, thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
I have pulled up on my screen, I hope you can see it, I have pulled up on my screen the Top Rated Seller Webinars group on Facebook. I've posted the link into the chat room for everyone. I apologize that we don't have a cute little short URL, but we're working on that. Maybe we'll have that by the next webinar. It is an open Facebook chat. Karen and I will be there. Julie is invited if she can make it, and Chris. And if you have more questions that you didn't get in, we can discuss them over there and gather more questions. And Chris is going to transcribe, and Karen's got them all copied, and we'll get you some answers the best we can.
Karen's still copying, so don't close everything yet.
Okay, Beth says Julie's screen is still showing, but it's supposed to be my screen. Okay, let's see if that'll work. Okay, can you see me now, Beth?
We see you now,
You
Kat.
see me now and you hear me. Wow, okay. Come on over to Top Rated Seller Webinars. You will have to request to join. Karen and I will refresh the page every couple seconds and add you as soon as you want to, and we'll open up our chat, and we will see you there. Thanks again, and have a great week working on your best match algorithm.